So now we're going to start with the times of the prayer. And you need to pay a lot of attention. It's really interesting, the times of salat. And once you learn the times of salat, it's going to make you anticipate and be eager to look for these times and to start the salat. And it's really interesting how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tied the times of salat to the movement of the sun, relatively speaking, and how it is tied to nature. Because our religion is the natural religion. It is a religion that is tied to nature. So, no particular order. I'm going to start with Maghrib. Usually scholars start with al-Dhuhr time, and that's for a reason. The reason is because when Jibreel alayhi salam came to teach the Prophet the times, he happened to come around the time of Dhuhr and he told them about Dhuhr before any other time. So therefore, anytime you open books of fiqh or books of Islamic jurisprudence, the first time they discuss is the time of Dhuhr. But you don't have to start there. You can start with Asr, Maghrib, anytime you want and study it. So let us start with Maghrib to be different. What is the time of Maghrib? Now you might say, well, Maghrib is the easiest time because we all know it starts with what? Sunset. So that's easy. And it is easy, I'm not disputing that. So what is sunset? Well, it has a definition in astronomy, and that is the moment when the trailing edge of the sun's disk, as we say in Arabic, qurs al-shams, the sun's disk disappears below the horizon. So that is an important definition because you might say, well, what if the sun disappears behind a mountain? That is not sunset. So it has to disappear behind the horizon. And that's easy to see if you are in a desert or looking at the sea. If the sun is setting in the sea, it's really easy to tell when sunset happens. For example, if there's still an edge of the sun appearing, that is not sunset. You cannot pray Maghrib until you make sure that the whole sun has disappeared. So if this is the horizon, it's getting in the way. If this is the horizon, you need to make sure that the sun's disk totally goes below the horizon. So if it is still showing a little bit, it's not Maghrib yet. It has to go all the way below the horizon. And that is a definition of Maghrib. Okay? Now if you see some intense red or orange, that's fine. That's a color. The color is fine. But the sun's disk itself has to go below the horizon. And that is the beginning of Maghrib. Now the question is, well, how long is Maghrib? And there are two major opinions here. One opinion that says the time of Maghrib is very short. And usually this is the Hanafi madhab. They say the time of Maghrib, and also in some of the Shafi'i school has two opinions. One that is similar to the Hanafi. They say all you got is the time to make wudu, get ready, cover your awrah, make adhan iqamah, and pray 5 rak'ah. The reason they mention 5 is because 3 for Maghrib and 2 for Sunnah. And then the time of Maghrib is over. And this is why you go to some masajid, they make adhan, and before you know it, they make iqamah, and boom, they're done. And to them, this is the time of Maghrib. The other opinion says that you have until the time of dusk. And this is when when the whiteness or the any amount of light disappears from the horizon. So when the light totally disappears, then this is the beginning of Isha, the end of Maghrib and the beginning of Isha. So the second opinion says that the end of Maghrib is the beginning of Isha. And that's the opinion I follow. I'm not going to tell you why because it's a long story. I mean, there are a lot of evidence for both. But this is the second opinion. And like I said, it is the opinion of other schools, like the Hanbali school and the Shafi'i school, a big portion of the Shafi'i school. So again, the definition of dusk is the time the sky becomes completely dark. That's also in astronomy. And of course, this is apart from the artificial light, because if you're in the city, obviously there's going to be much more light. So we're not talking about that light. If you are out in the desert or in the mountains, there's no city light, there's no artificial light, this is the kind of light we're talking about. Because in some cases, the light is so strong, the city light is so strong, you can't really tell. So you cannot rely on that. Usually, this occurs when the sun has 18 degrees angle below the horizon. And I want you to pay attention to these degrees because this actually lets you understand the different methods in telling Isha time. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the different apps for Salat and for the times of Salat. And you notice that there are like 5 different methods or methodologies to tell Isha and Fajr. For example, you have the Muslim World League, you have al-Qura, you have the Egyptian method, you have the Karachi method, you have the North American method. And by the way, just because it says North American doesn't make it more correct than the other methods. Because all of those methods apply globally. Like you say, it's the method adopted by Karachi, but it applies to the whole world. Okay? So just because it is in Egypt or in Mecca or in Karachi, it doesn't mean it's limited to that location. So you have about 5 different methodologies of determining the beginning of Isha. And the reason is because there's a difference on when the twilight is completely over. Because twilight is really hard to tell. Like, I mean, you keep looking at some light in the sky until it totally disappears. But then, can you tell exactly when it totally disappears? This is why, for example, and I wrote down some examples. If you follow the Muslim World League, if you have any Adhan app, you go into advanced settings and it gives you those options. You can select one of them. And sometimes there is a difference of 15 or 20 minutes between one and the other. And this is so true for Isha and Fajr. This is why you look at some calendars, especially in Ramadan, you notice that. You look at one calendar, it says, 5:15. You look at another calendar, it says 5:20 or 5:30. And you wonder, wow, there's a big difference. It's all because of this. So what is that angle? Again, if you look at the horizon, this is the horizon, and now the sun has set, so now it's below the horizon. Now we start looking at the angle. How far is the sun below the horizon? That is called the angle of the sun below the horizon. And you start looking, and by the way, in astronomy, they look at 6 degrees as the civil dusk, they call it, and then 12 degrees is the nautical dusk, and then at 18 degrees is called the astronomical dusk. This is in astronomy, but for us as Muslims, in telling the prayers, we have basically 2 that we care about. One is about 15 degrees, and the other one is 18 degrees. Now, in the old days, there are 2 major opinions when it comes to the time of Isha. One that says we look at the red twilight. When the red twilight is over, that is the beginning of Isha. And this is the opinion of the Shafi'i, the Hanbali, and the Maliki. The Hanafis, they said, no, we wait until the white twilight is over. And that's the absolute darkness. If you look at these 2 opinions, one kind of aligns with the 15 degrees, and the other one kind of aligns with the 18 degrees. And in between nowadays, you see the 17, 17.5, but really the 2 opinions that could align to the old opinions is the 15 degrees and 18 degrees. Now, I might have confused you completely here, so tell me if I should slow down and go one more time over this.
The 15 degrees is what?
So the 15 degrees kind of align. It's not total alignment, but aligns with the disappearance of the red twilight, which is the opinion of 3 schools. Everybody except the Hanafi. And then the 18 degrees aligns with the Hanafi, who say it's the disappearance of the white twilight. So first the red twilight will disappear, and then the white twilight disappears. You know what I'm talking about, right? The twilight. So when the sun sets, you see the redness in the horizon. That disappears first, and then about 15 or 20 minutes later, the whiteness, the total whiteness disappears. Like no more light whatsoever, and this is complete dark. This is the Hanafi. So now you say, well, I'm confused. If there's so many, like 5 different methods and each one uses slightly different angle, then which one do I follow? You know, I take the opinion that the disappearance of the red is enough, and that signals the beginning of Isha. But if you want to be on the safer side, then you could wait until the white twilight is over. And that is the 18 degrees. So now if you want to go to your app and you want to set it, if you want to be on the safe side, you can set it to 18 degrees, right? And that is the Karachi, I believe. And 15 is the other extreme, which is the North American. And like I said, in between, you want to be in the middle, you can select the Muslim World League. That's like 17, 17.5. But now you understand what these angles are. So all the angle is, you get the horizon, and then how low is the sun below the horizon? That makes an angle. And these are the angles you see in the apps. Whether it's 15 degree or 18 degree or in between, that is really the angle of the sun below the horizon. Okay. If you have the Adhan app, I recommend you look at it, and if you have any questions, let me know. But this is what exactly that is. By the way, al-Qura, for some reason, they say it's 90 minutes after Maghrib, so it does not give you any angle. So I think they're trying to normalize or to make it easy for you. Okay, so now you understand the beginning of Maghrib and the end of Maghrib. So you have until dusk, and again, dusk, the definition of dusk, it has 2 definitions. One is the disappearance of the red twilight, and then 15 or 20 minutes later, the disappearance of the whiteness in the sky, or the white twilight. Okay, so now I think we already know Isha, because the end of Maghrib is the beginning of Isha, according to these schools. We said the Hanafi, they only give you, in the beginning of Maghrib, the amount of time it takes to make wudu and get ready, cover yourself, make adhan, iqama, and then pray 5 rak'at. Okay, what about Isha? The beginning of Isha is clear. It's really the beginning of complete darkness. If you want to think about it, it is really the beginning of complete darkness. So what about the places like in the North Pole when the sun never sets? What do? Or if there's no, it might set and then there's no even twilight, or twilight continues into dawn and you have the second day or something like that. Is that possible? So what do you do in that case? Yes?
Isn't that in like Alaska too?
Well, in Alaska you could have Maghrib go until 11 p.m. or something. Calculate the time? Yeah, so scholars say that what you do in that case, you look at the closest country that has night and day and you follow it. You adopt the time of the country closest to you, and there's another opinion that says you follow the time of Mecca. That's easier, right? That's another option.
What about fasting Ramadan? In some countries when they have to fast 20 hours?
So the question is, what about fasting Ramadan? It's a similar, situation. If you have to fast long hours, like 20 hours, you said, in some countries. What I know is, if there is sunset, then if you have night and day, then you follow that. That's what I know. But I can investigate more. Okay, so the time of Isha. It starts with complete darkness. How far does it go? When it comes to Isha, actually we have 2 times. There is the preferred time, where it is recommended to pray, and then there is what we call waqt al-darura, Like if you have a necessity, or if you can't pray in the preferred time, you still have time before you run out of time. Okay? So the preferred time is between the beginning of Isha until 1/3 of the night. That is the preferred time. Now you say, well, what is the 1/3 of the night? Good question. So the way to do that is you start from Maghrib until Fajr, and you divide by 3. So let's say nowadays, I think Maghrib here is 6:10, 6:09, something like that. Let's say 6:10, okay? And coincidentally, the time of Fajr is about 6:10 as well. And again, that depends which method you follow, but let's say 6:10 to make it easy. So they have now a night of 12 hours. Between Maghrib and dawn, that's how you calculate. Between Maghrib until dawn, you have 12 hours. Divided by 3, 4 hours. Each third is 4 hours. So the first third of the night is from Maghrib till what time? 10 o'clock. So until 10, this is the preferred time. And then you have between 10 and 2, that's the second third. And then from 2 to 6, the last third. This is how you calculate the times of the night. There's another opinion that says you have up till the middle of the night, not the third. And there are many hadith on that you pray, you have till the half of the night. Now that does not mean midnight. It's not 12 a.m. all the time. Again, you do the same method. If you have 12 hours, you divide by 2, that is 6. So if Maghrib is 6:10, then your midnight is 12:10, not 12, 12:10. So you have till 12:10. That is the preferred time. But in other cases, it could be 11 something or 12:30. I don't know. I mean, it depends on where you live, how long the night is, how long the day is. Okay? So this is the preferred time. Now the necessity time, yes?
Is it for the entire salah, so including up to witr, or is it just for your fard?
No, this is talking about fard only, because you have the whole night to pray tahajjud, if you want to do the night prayer. In fact, we know the last third of the night is better to pray night prayer and witr. So yeah, this is only Isha time. Okay. So the preferred time is up till either the first 1/3, the end of the third, or the end of the half. Okay? And then necessity time is until Fajr. So for example, if you fell asleep, or you feel too tired, you can't even stand up to pray, or you're exhausted, you put your alarm to make sure you wake up before Fajr to pray Isha. Okay? So this is a necessity time. If you cannot make it in the first half of the night, when it is preferred, you still have the second half, but it is not preferable. It is not preferable. But it is allowed. And some scholars mention there's a third time, which is karaha, like it's makruh, it is disliked, but it's still allowed. And that is between al-Fajr al-Kadhib and al-Fajr al-Sadiq. There is the false Fajr and the true Fajr. And that's a long topic. I don't know if you care about it. But it's really at the very end, let's say. The very end, don't delay till the very end. That is the idea. Okay. Now, what about Fajr time? So let's do Fajr time and we'll stop. Fajr time is also divided into several times. The first one is the preferred time. Again, you're going to see this in many of them. So the preferred time is from the entry of dawn until you see the first light. Or you see, after a while you start looking and you see that it is light outside. It's not sunrise yet. It's not sunrise, but you start seeing light outside. So this is called isfar. So between the time of dawn until isfar is preferred. Okay? And then comes the second period, which is the allowed but is not preferred. And it's between the time you see light until sunrise. Okay? Now, if right before sunrise you're going to see redness. Right before redness, this is allowed without any dislike. But if you wait until the redness, which is the very last period before sunrise, that is disliked. But it's still allowed, but it is disliked. And what is haram is to wait until the sun is going to rise and you try and beat the sun, and you don't have enough time to finish the prayer before the sun rises. You don't want to wait until then. So let's say it's winter, it's cold, and you're not going to wake up in the beginning. At least allow yourself enough time. You wake up maybe, say, 20 minutes before sunrise, so that way you have time to, clean, use the restroom, whatever, make wudu, and then pray the 2 rak'ah. So allow yourself that time so that you're not going into sunrise. You're not, that sun rises while you're praying, for example. And here there's also a difference of opinion. You notice the Hanafis would like to wait until they see the light. The other schools, they say it's preferred to pray while it is dark. Like as soon as the dawn enters, you start praying. And you don't wait until you see the light in the sky. So that is a subtle difference. You might notice some masajid, if they delay it until they see light, most likely they follow the Hanafi madhab. And other masajid, they start immediately after dawn. So what is dawn? Dawn is the beginning of twilight. The very beginning of twilight. And nowadays, alhamdulillah, we have timetables, so you don't have to worry about seeing that, because it's not easy to see it again in the city. But again, in your app, you're going to see something similar to Isha, because again, Fajr is the opposite of Isha. Fajr is also the beginning of twilight, so we'll talk about the angles again, but it's the opposite. This is the sun now coming up, so the angle will keep reducing until you have sunrise. Okay? So the beginning of Fajr could be at 18 degrees again, or 17 or 15, depending on the method you follow. But it's using the same methodology. It's all about the distance of the sun from the horizon. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm going to stop here, inshallah. The food is here, right? Yeah. So if you have any questions, I want to take it slowly, like I said, because some of this could be confusing. I want to make sure you understand it, so we'll leave some time for questions and comments.
You said astronomical darkness is what you what? Astronomical dusk.
Dusk. That is the 18 degree.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
And there were two of them.
The other ones were the civil dusk, that's 6 degrees only, and you have the nautical dusk at 12 degrees. It doesn't have much significance in fiqh, but in astronomy, it does. Anything else?
Oh,
Yes.
and you said if we have like Maghrib is 16 and Fajr is 16, that's 12 hours.
Yes.
If we divide by 3,
If you want to look at the thirds, yes.
okay.
If you look at the halves, you divide by 2.
Oh, okay. Depending how you want to do it.
Correct. Like, for example, if you're looking at the first third of the night, so you have to divide by 3 and you add 1/3, 4, in this case 4. So you add 6 plus 4 is 10. So up till 10 is 1/3 of the night, the first 1/3. Also, if you want to know the last third, because you want to wake up to pray tahajjud, you want to pray night prayer, you want to calculate the last third. So then if you divide, if it's 4 each, it'd be between 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. That's your last third of the night. Any other questions? Was this too confusing?
No.
If you're not good at math, then it's going to be a problem. I know math is not popular, but in this country.
Any other questions?
Why is Brother Ahmad the only one asking questions today?
They're very different from me. They're kind of guys.
Because he doesn't eat pizza.
Okay.
I know I'm keeping you away from the pizza.
And I don't want to keep away from this. I'll let you.
Can we allow him one more question?
Yes.
Yeah, you said that the different methods for calculating these things are the Muslim World League, the Egyptian, Karachi, and the North American. What was the other one?
Yes, no?
ISNA is the North American, Egyptian is one, and Karachi is another. And Qura is Mecca. Qura is the Meccan time.
It should be in your app.
Yeah, they are all in the app. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there are 5 of them.
So for next week, the time changes.
And coincidentally, so next time, Isha is 7:45. So you get 15 minutes more before you come here. Yes.
So typically, a lot of times, because of these changes, differences, especially for Fajr,
Yes.
or Suhoor, always these
Yes.
people always thinking, should I err on the side of caution? Which one should I take? What's your opinion on?
Okay, good question. So he said for Fajr especially, it is confusing when we are fasting in the month of Ramadan, and there's a lot of debate which opinion we follow. There's two things here. If you go to a particular masjid or in a particular community, just follow the masjid and don't worry about, because all of these are valid in my opinion. Why do I say that? Is because as we saw for Maghrib, maybe next time we'll talk more about Fajr specifically, but as we saw for the end of Maghrib, beginning of Isha, there are two valid opinions. And they're both based on hadith, because the Prophet said ash-shafaq, twilight. He did not specify, is it red or white? So now the Shafi'is say it's red and the Hanafis say it's white. But in the hadith, it's not clear either way. So they both relied on their understanding. Abu Hanifa said, I want to be on the safer side and pick the white. The Shafi'i said, no, red is because when the Arabs in the desert say twilight, they mean the red. So he utilized the knowledge of the Arabs at the time. So you see, each one is trying a different method, but they all relying on the hadith. So therefore, you just follow the community you're in. I remember a few years ago, I was part of the Imam Council of Phoenix, and basically not all the Imams, but most of the masajid, the Imam of the masajid, they get together, and we were talking about this issue. And at the time, we decided to follow the Muslim World League for a reason, and that's because it's kind of in between. Because there's no way around it for Fajr. Look, if you pick the early time for Fajr in Ramadan, and it's not right, what's going to happen? You could be praying before time. If you pick the later time in Ramadan, you could be eating after Fajr. So there's no way around it. Believe me, we tried. So therefore, we said, let's follow the middle, which is the Muslim World League. I think it was kind of in between like 16 or 17 degrees, between the 15 and 18. And again, if this is the opinion that the leaders of the community decided, we just follow. Because the last thing you want is in the same masjid, some people fasting, some people still eating, some people praying, some people saying, no, it's too early to pray. You don't want that.
The problem is the app now is overrode that whatever agreement.
No, sure, the app, but again, if the community announces that we're following this opinion, the Muslim World League, so in your app you fix it to the Muslim World League. That's it. That's exactly what we said. We said we're going to follow the Muslim World League for Phoenix.
But every message is different, unfortunately.
So in that time, there were representatives from most of the masajid. So not all the masajid were present. That's another problem. But the masajid that were present, they agreed on that. And I don't think they followed it since. I mean, I think later years, I think different masajid went different ways. Okay. Good. Okay. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.